If it works, we could elect for me to run the as chair for this meeting, since I'd be doing the bulk of the presentation anyway. But we can cross that bridge at the beginning or as you have to exit, Roger. And for some reason, my connection's running slow enough that my documents are still not opening. But we could go ahead and begin.
Okay. Was kind of planning on Todd running this, but so welcome to what's the date? June 5th, 2024 IBC tag meeting. The agenda is up on the screen. I think we probably need to take a attendance, see if we have a quorum.
All righty, I will conduct a roll call. First up and not present is Chair Todd Baberuther. Chair Alternate Roger Heringa.
I'm here.
Thank you. Architect Prime Joe Mayo.
I think Joe is unable to attend this afternoon.
Okay, thank you. I don't see him in the group members list. For Architect Alternate Jeff Fortaleza.
Present.
Thank you. Building Official Prime Tim Woodard.
Present.
Thank you. Building Official Alternate Steve Belzak.
I'm here.
Thank you. Fire Services Representative Prime Dan Young. For the alternate Lance Dahl. I see Lance in the guest list here. For cities and counties, Hoyt Jeter.
Yes, I'm here.
Thank you. For cities and counties, alternate Sean Carlstrom. Not seeing in the room. For general contractor or developer, Bill Mybush.
Present.
Thank you. For structural engineer primary, Joshua Mergens.
Present.
Thank you. For the alternate, Trent Tinney.
I'm here.
Thank you. For persons with disabilities or accessibility expert, Michael Shaw.
Present.
Thank you. For building owner or property manager, Brett Conway. Not seeing an attendance here today. For general public subject matter expert, primary, Michael Barth.
I'm here.
Thank you. For the alternate, Leah Sommer. Not seeing her in the room today. For state enforcement agency primary, Paul Clark.
Here.
And for fire protection engineers, Andy Leanto.
Present.
All right.
Here. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir, I heard you. And we have a quorum today.
Okay. I will, so I also would, are there any new members? Seems like there was information that came through. There were a couple of new appointees potentially. Again, I don't remember for sure.
There are, but I don't have them highlighted on my roll call, so give me 2 seconds, I'll pull up the list. Or if you're here and you want to raise your hand and introduce yourself as a new member.
Maybe we just do that. If you're a new member to the tag, if you could just speak up. Michael, go ahead.
Hello, my name is Michael Shaw and I'm new to the group. This is my first meeting. I represent Chapter 11 and accessibility. So thank you for welcoming me to the group.
You bet. Good to have you, Michael. And Lance.
Yeah, hello, Lance Dahl. Washington State Association of Fire Marshals, I think, is where I came in on this, and I'll be the alternate, I think, behind Dan Young.
All right, thanks, Lance, and welcome. Is there anybody else?
This is Dan Young, Kittitas County Fire Marshal. Came through Washington State Association of Fire Marshals, like Lance.
All right.
Glad to be here.
Well, I'm glad you are all here, if that's everybody. If not, and I will, as continuation of the welcome, for the new members, and also just to remind everybody, our schedule, our hope is, our work right now is to get through all of the chapters and to create a report that Dustin and the rest of the staff are pulling together. That report is meant to do two things. Number one, to identify changes in the model code, in the new model code that are that would have potential cost impacts, and then also trying to integrate the existing state amendments. And are the amendments, do those amendments need to be changed, or how do we integrate the existing amendments in with the new code? For instance, in some cases, the new code has picked up the language of the amendment, so we don't need to maintain the state amendment because the model code has been changed. So trying to get a report done. We have a deadline of basically next Thursday, I believe it is. There is a standing committee meeting next Friday afternoon, and the plan is, the hope is to have the reports ready for that standing meeting next Friday, and then the following Friday is the Code Council, the State Building Code Council meeting, where we will review the report. And after that meeting, hopefully, if things go as planned, we will open a 60-day period to allow people to propose amendments. Some of those amendments may come from the industry for whatever reason. There also may be some amendments that this body or members of this body propose. And an example of that might be if the model code picks up part of a current state amendment, but not all of it, we may need to maintain the state amendment, but we're going to need to reword it just to integrate it. So the first order of business is to get through the chapters and create the report. We are under kind of a quick deadline, and then I think over the next 2 weeks, week and a half, but then our schedule might kind of relax a little bit as we move forward over the next 60 and 90 days. So that's kind of where we're at, our agenda, or our big picture agenda. And I wanted to, let's see, there isn't an X by public comment, but are there any members of the public that want to make sure that they are recognized? We'll leave it open for a minute. Again, this is an open meeting. Anybody can participate. So item number 2, review and approve agenda. Could I would ask for a motion to approve the agenda as.
Make a motion to approve the agenda.
Thanks, Hoyt. Do I have a second?
I can
Second is Bill.
Thanks, Bill. Is there any discussion? My only question for Dustin is there are in the, when I got online anyway, and maybe I'm not up to the most current, we've got all those chapters listed. I had talked with you about potentially going through chapters 16 and 17 first, since my time is limited and those are chapters that I did. But I'm not sure that information was included. Am I correct or am I incorrect in that, Dustin?
You are correct that they didn't get posted online. I do have them here.
Okay.
And as far as the total agenda, with the amount of work we're trying to crunch in and that the stuff's coming in over in short time periods, we didn't get a chance to update what we had online versus what we have in our in the folders we have here. So I would like to do chapter 16 because you're not available at our next meetings, as I understand. And but that one's not on here for folks who have had time to digest that here before the meeting. When it comes to the other chapters I'd like to visit today, I'd like to try to stick to the ones that we have posted online.
Okay. And I will just make a statement kind of addressing my question as well. We are certainly sensitive to the Open Public Meetings Act, the OPMA. We are trying to make this as public as possible. At the same time, we are moving very, very fast. If we go through chapters today, that's not the last time people have the opportunity to comment on it. So in upcoming tag meetings, probably for sure, and then even after the State Building Code Council meeting in June, if there is an issue that comes up that we did not address properly, that there is an opportunity to bring that up again. So Hoyt, you have your hand up.
Yeah, just a real quick thing. Can you mind updating the header where you have February 16th, 2024, just to make sure it matches the date? Just a minor thing.
I'm looking at the date. What date are you?
On page two, you just,
Ah,
Top
I
of
got-
page 2.
Oh,
or you could just delete that. It doesn't matter. It threw me for a loop when I was looking at the old ones, and I was like, huh. So it's a.
gotcha. I'm surprised that made it this far into the cycle without being noticed. We might not have multi-page agendas either, but thanks for catching that. We'll get those header notes taken off.
Okay, is there any other discussion? If not, then all in favor of approving the agenda, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Hearing none, the agenda is approved. Item number 3 is review and approve the minutes from our last meeting, which is May 30th, 2024. I believe these were posted online, but Dustin, if you could kind of slowly page through, and anybody that has questions or comments, feel free to raise your hand.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
Thanks, Tim.
Second.
I didn't hear who that second was.
Oh, it was Hoyt. Sorry.
Thanks, White. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of approving the minutes, say aye.
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 Any opposed?
Aye.
All right. Item number 4 on the agenda, and I think I have that up for myself as well, is public comment on items not up on the agenda. So I just want to allow anybody in the room, is there anything that needs to be added to the agenda? And that's good. I'm going to say that's enough time. So we will move forward into, well, Dustin, I actually believe now is the right time to have you appointed as is it a pro tem?
Yes.
Is that the right title? Pro tem chairperson, because I've only got about a half an hour now. So I would ask for a motion to appoint Dustin as the pro tem chairperson of the meeting to take effect after I have to leave.
I'll make a motion to let Dustin be the chair while you're gone. No, when you have to leave.
Thanks, right? Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
All right. Any discussion? All right. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Okay. So I would like to start on chapter 16. I am, like I said, I've got about a half hour now before I need to take off. I did 16, 17, and 19. 16 is probably the big one, but and Dustin, if there are, what I actually would like to do is start with the existing amendment review that you've got on the page.
Okay.
Because, and actually you don't, Could I share my screen?
Yes, you can. Let me just stop mine.
Let me make sure I get,
Hey, Dustin, I also sent you when I went through too, so you got mine too, right? Kind of to go in the same chapter.
Yes, I've got a bunch of stuff from you, Hoyt. And did you say yours overlaps on this one as well?
Yeah, I think I had the structural also, so, but
Okay.
that's okay. I mean, we could just do off that. That's not a problem. It's just, no big deal.
okay, so I will share and I will try to get through my. All right, you're seeing my screen.
Yes, it's coming up.
Okay, the reason I wanted to start with the existing amendment review is the earthquake. So these are listing the 51-50-1613, the earthquake loads. There are not significant changes in the IBC specifically, but the IBC 2024 IBC now references the ASCE 7-22 rather than the ASCE 7-16. And so there are changes within ASCE 7 that are significant and that are that deal with the existing state amendments. So for both of those, the earthquake loads, section 1613.4.1, and actually it goes beyond 4.2. My suggestion is that we keep the amendment, but there is a fair amount of work that this group needs to do to probably adjust the amendment, because a lot of the information has been picked up in ASCE 7, but I'm not sure that all of it has. So what I would anticipate is a modified state amendment that incorporates the those portions that are in the amendment that did not get picked up in ASCE 7. So, and as an example, hang on a minute, I gotta close the door. As an example, what I've tried to do here, let's see, is I have pulled together, I'll get this presentable. This is language for the design response spectrum. I have cut and pasted a copy of what is in ASCE 716. On the right, I have cut and pasted a copy of what's in ASCE 722 on the left. And then here is the current WAC amendment. So I have 6 different documents like this where I have put the information out there in order for a group, and I am happy to lead that group that is in charge of modifying the WAC amendments. And I'm happy to send these out. Again, I've got 6 different sections where, you know, in this particular section, ASCE 7 section 11.2, it was blank. In the ASCE 716, ASCE 722 incorporates this USGS database, which is where we are supposed to go now for our site-specific information. You can see that basically this information was included in the WAC, and what this state amendment did was basically we went through rulemaking to incorporate the information that is in ASCE 722 during the last code cycle. So in this case, I don't believe any information in the current WAC will be required because of the information is included up in ASCE 722 now, but that's not always the case for all of these. So
Yeah, that's correct. Actually, I did the check too on that. So it should be, we shouldn't need an amendment anymore because it's incorporated now in ASC 722.
Yeah, in this one, although I think in some of the others, they're not. So, wait, I didn't go through that close of a check, word by word and making sure that everything got incorporated. So I think that there is maybe it's a subgroup or something, or a couple of us need to sit down and go through and track through it a little bit closer. So at least that was the review that I did.
Yeah.
So, and then I'm happy to go through, I will start going through the Word document now. 16. So I'm going to try to go through quickly so I can hit the highlights. If there are any questions, please speak up. Any blue is obviously new from the 21 IBC to the 2024 IBC.
Yeah, the big one, just recoup on that. The one that's probably the biggest one is the tsunami stuff. Just FYI, we should keep that in the state.
Yes.
That is state specific.
Yep, I've got that. And then some of the other ones, I'll mention a couple things in general. They pop up in various places. The design snow load, the code has basically very clearly said that this is an allowable stress design snow load. Ultimate strength versus allowable stress is just two different ways that we approach. It's kind of where the safety factor gets applied, but the code is very clearly said allowable stress design. And then there's a new term here that's ground snow load determined from figures. So no real change there. It's just kind of informational. Basic wind speed has kind of just changed the definition a little bit. There is there are no requirements for tornado design. However, if you look at, there is a table, and you have to track down the table. I'm not sure if it's in chapter 32 of ASC 7. There is no area in the state of Washington that is included in the tornado zone. So while the IBC now has tornado information, it has no impact on the state of Washington. And wait, you have your hand up. You have another comment?
Yeah, the one thing I noticed that, you remember SEAW, we went through and did the snow load of the state of Washington?
Yeah.
I don't know when it got dropped or something, but I've still been using that reference for the snow load in the ASC 7. Did you find the same thing? For some reason, I didn't find it this time. And maybe I missed where I was finding it. You know what I'm talking about? Remember we actually, SEAW, we actually went through and mapped all of Washington that actually gave the ground snow load.
Wait, you're saying you're not seeing that in the ASCE 722, the reference to the SEAW white paper number 8?
I thought, yeah, I did. Maybe let me open it up. I'm sorry. I was looking at that the other day and I wondered, did you look? I didn't see it for some reason, and maybe I just missed it.
Well, I wouldn't envision that it would be in the model codes. It would be somewhere in our, wouldn't we have to have a state amendment?
Well, we had that.
It usually is in the ASCE. It's for many states, they specifically reference certain documents.
Yeah, and so what happens, SEAW had their own snow map for the state of Washington. And and so let me see if I can open up ASCE 7. I was looking for that and I couldn't find it. And maybe I just missed it in the ASCE 7. Let me just look at 722. I'm gonna open it up right now.
Okay.
I think it was in the 716, but I thought I didn't see the snow loads in the chart. Maybe someone else can open it too, just to double check with me. For some reason, the Washington ones got left out, and I didn't know why. And I thought maybe someone would know here. You know what I'm talking about? The table for Washington, specifically for Washington.
Certainly. If I had an ASCE 22, I would be looking with you.
Yeah, I'm opening it right now. Yeah, I don't see it, and that maybe someone else.
Okay.
I hope someone else has it. When I was trying to find those, I couldn't find the Washington state maps in there, but it was in the 716.
Okay.
So someone can verify that.
Are you keeping track of, do you have the significant changes open?
Do
I do have that.
No, I don't. That's in the,
Okay.
that's the ICC significant changes. This is different. This is state of Washington has their own maps.
Yes.
And ASC 7 published them, or was it in,
The significant changes is the document that we're trying to track that would identify, and I suggest that that was whether there are significant changes in the ICC or in the ASC 7. Right? I
Right.
mean, we would flag either one that we need to coordinate and
right, but that's what I'm saying. I don't see that, can someone else check too?
Yeah.
Maybe I had to have my, is not the most, maybe there's an errata that I just hadn't gotten to yet.
Okay. Dustin, I'm going to ask you to add a row right here for the snow load
Okay.
in 1602.1, and just confirm if there is not a reference to the Washington State, that we'd need an amendment to make sure that we incorporate that.
And so it's in the notation section. And for if there is no Washington note, an amendment is needed to add one.
Yeah.
Does that work for you?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I just opened it again, just FYI, and it's in the ASC 716, and I don't know why they dropped it out of the ASC 722. I'm not on that committee.
Okay.
I'm assuming it's just a mistake because
Yeah.
we didn't read. So just FYI, if you're looking at it, it's in the ASC 716, but for some reason my printing doesn't have it in the ASC 722. So.
We will track that down, and if it's not in ASC 7, we would need an amendment, state amendment to incorporate it. Good catch on that, Hoyt. So going back,
And
go ahead.
just as a quick note on that one, I put in the tag comments recommendation column that amendment may be needed if there's no Washington note, that it's also in the ASCE 716, but not in the ASCE 722, just as a source information.
Okay.
Yeah, and if you want, Dustin, you could call me after the meeting. And if you have both those codes, or I can share my screen, I can show you what I'm talking about, if you're curious.
Well, we actually don't have any ASCE 7s here
I
at the
do.
State Building Code Council.
I do, but so that's what I'm saying. I can share you. I have those codes because I use them all the
Okay.
time.
Gotcha.
Okay. I am going to move on to 1603, which is not a significant, there's no significant change because all this is what we need to include and show on our construction documents. Ground snow load again is allowable stress. Just clarifying the snow load. On the roof snow load, we are required to identify the risk category and the snow drift information. Again, that does not change. It's just that it doesn't change anything as far as construction costs or anything. It's just what we have to show on our drawings. Everything in 1603.1.4 that changed is incorporating the tornado design data. And again, tornado design does not have any effect in the state of Washington. So these tornado requirements are not, no significant change. Earthquake design data, we're just adding, clarifying spectral response acceleration parameters, just kind of a clarification of definitions. Again, the roof rain load data does change a little bit, but this is really, the design itself does not change. There's some clarifications later on in the document about how we calculate those, but this just says that we are required to show the rain load data on our drawings in 1603. This is where, is this big enough? Can you guys read this?
It's decent on my screen.
Okay. This is a clarification note on number 2, when you're calculating deflections. The snow load shall be permitted to be taken as 0.7 times the design snow load for the purposes of the deflection limits. So we are allowed to reduce we don't need to use the full design load, and I believe that that is actually a allowable stress versus ultimate strength. Clarification in where we're calculating the deflection of our the roof deflection under snow loads. The analysis procedure, this and I'm fine, Josh or Trent, if you have any other comments, but this changing to this wording, again, in my mind, does not make any change. All they're saying is that diaphragms, you can do them as flexible or rigid, or you can go, you can model the stiffness of the diaphragms. So that's a fair amount of a change in that analysis of the diaphragm calculations, but I don't believe that it changes the design approach.
I guess we maybe want to dig into that a little bit. That sounds significant to me, at least with regards to wood structures, unless there's another exception that I'm overlooking that allows wood structures to be designed directly as flexible per the AWC documents.
Okay.
Or is it where a diaphragm? I'm sorry, I should just let you keep
where a
going.
diaphragm
Where.
is not permitted to be idealized as either flexible or rigid.
Sure.
ISC 7, or for wood diaphragms, the structure shall be analyzed and designed utilizing one of the following procedures.
That makes good sense. I read too fast. Thank you, Roger.
Yeah, I think that it is, you know, basically what we do today is just rewording. But if you're, again, if we go through this today, if that's something you want to look at a little closer, I feel free to do that. And if there's a flag in there, wait a minute, this really is a change, we can bring that up later. But I think that was, when I went through it, I thought that was okay. Risk category. So this is there are some changes here on the risk categories. And in fact, when we go back to I go to the significant changes, I put tornado loads, but there's no impact because it doesn't impact the state of Washington.
I think we do have over in the corner of eastern Washington, we have a couple places that do fall under the tornado. Just have.
If you look at for figure 1609.5, and is that? See, I got through this a while back. So is the figure here 1609?
You might be right. I may have just forgot wrong. So.
Well, again, double check please double check me. But yeah, here's the tornado prone region and areas outside. So all the state of Washington is outside of the
Yep. My mistake. I was thinking of something else. Sorry about that.
Okay. So the changes to the risk category, and I go back, let me make sure I'm getting things right. The roof snow load. So there was a change in the detailed snow load was relaxed. Where we have to provide a detailed snow load data was relaxed rather than 10 pounds a square foot of ground snow load to 15. But again, that's not significant. 1603 is just some of the things, clarifying what is and is not included in our, has to be included in our construction documents. 1603.1.9 roof rain load data. I guess that I not get something over that. Yeah, I'm jumping over that. So the risk categories, exceptions for the risk categories, freestanding parking garages not used for storage of emergency vehicles and not providing means of egress for buildings or structures assigned a higher risk or category shall be risk category 2. I don't know that there are very many parking garages that are risk category 3, but I guess I could see that could happen in the past. So this is a little bit of a relaxation potentially for parking garages. That if it is just a parking garage for cars, it isn't, it will be risk category 2. The changes to the risk category that I didn't want to flag, and I have as a potential cost issue, is group I3 occupancies. In the previous code, I think all group I3 occupancies were risk category 3. Now, group I3 occupancies, other than condition 1, are risk category 4. So what that does, and I have to go back to, is that chapter 3, I think, where you talk about the risk categories. I'm not going to have time to get that, to pull that up. Let's see if I can. If you go to risk category I, and then you go down to I3, institutional group I3 occupancies include buildings and structures that are inhabited by more than 5 persons who are under restraint or security. So correctional centers, detention center, jails, pre-release, prisons, reformatories. Condition 1, the occupancy condition shall include buildings in which free movement is allowed from sleeping areas and other spaces where access or occupancy is permitted to the exterior by means of egress without restraint. Condition 2 is basically any other conditions where there is not free movement, now has to be risk category 4. So there are not a whole lot of projects, I don't believe, that are I3 occupancies that are condition 2, 3, and 4, but those have changed to a risk category 4, which would be a cost increase because of the higher seismic loads that you have to design for it beyond, I mean, also what snow load, wind load, anything with an importance factor. So I have flagged that as, that is a model code change. And I flagged that as a risk category 3, that yes, that is a cost issue. And is the amendment needed? I put question mark. I don't necessarily think, there's not a reason for me to think that this group would suggest that we would not do what the model code said and say, no, those facilities can still be risk category 3. But part of our purpose here is to flag anything that's a cost impact. So I flagged that, and then I also flagged the power generating stations that went from risk category 3 to risk category 4. So let's see, power generating stations. Larger power generating stations are risk category 3, and then public utility providing power generation, potable water treatment, or wastewater treatment is risk category 4. So those are flagged. Don't necessarily think that there is a reason why this group would not accept what the model code says, but wanted to point that out.
Yeah, I think we should accept it what the model code says. I'm in agreement with that too. So I remember that was just when that's at the hearings.
Multiple occupancies. Again, I don't believe that this changes anything. It clarifies when you have multiple occupancies. Don't think that it is a significant change or one that necessarily has a cost issue. So I did not flag it as such. 1604.5.2 is a whole new photovoltaic panel systems. Let me remind myself of this. That's 1604. General design requirements. So now there are general design requirements for PV panel systems, which I think is good. Because right now on a structural design, there is not a whole lot of code data that tells us exactly what we're supposed to be doing. So any new information from the model code is good. So I didn't think that was, I may have added that as a yeah, I just said section added. I actually believe that that is not a cost impact, but I put question mark. I think that the answer to that is no. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say those other question marks that you have for whether or not an amendment is needed, those can be marked as no now. I
Yeah,
think based on the discussion, right?
yeah, I think, and Dustin, I'm doing this on my version, so.
And I'm following along. I would try to raise the question on that one just a second ago, but we skipped past it before I unmuted. So I've got the changes here in my document as well.
Well, I'm trying to go through this in short order, and because I've got a couple minutes here before I'm supposed to let out. I want to apologize for that. 1604 Anchorage. And again, this is just a wording thing. I don't think there is not any change whatsoever, but just a clarification on wording on structural wall anchorage. Load combinations, item 4 is just how to incorporate tornado loads, which we've said then was not change. These load combination changes are purely clarification that the snow load is an allowable stress design snow load. So you see all of these are load combinations that include snow. I'm not sure why they put blue on the whole document, why they just didn't put blue on that part, but that was how they did it. Flat snow loads of 45 pounds a square foot or less. Need not be combined with seismic loads. And actually, I have to go back. I'm not sure if that is a reduction, an increase. If that's a change or not. If anything, it is not a cost impact. Yeah, I did not flag that. So I don't believe, if anything, this changed. This used to be a smaller. Oh, actually, I think that this is just, again, incorporating the allowable stress, clarifying that this is, that the roof snow load is calculated as an allowable stress. So we needed to modify those two numbers. This is just a definition that says basically what everybody knew, parts that are needed designed for the dead load. Same thing for the live loads. Fixed seating fastened to floor and lobbies. Again, that is a clarification. It doesn't change anything the way we design stuff. Garages and vehicle floors. Passengers, okay, so this is just a clarification of parking garages and then fire truck emergency access and forklifts, and there is a refers you to 1607.8, and I believe 1607.8 down here is just heavy design loads, you know, fire truck, emergency vehicles that are accessed by the fire department. So this is just a clarification for fire trucks and emergency vehicles. I don't think that those change any. And back up to helipads. There is some more information on the design of helipads. Again, there's probably only one or two helipads that are designed in the state of Washington every, one a year maybe. I don't think that this is a significant change. It is a clarification. So
they use them for hospitals. There's that's for hospitals, which I'm doing the Coma General one, but it was in the ASC 7, so it's not a big.
Yeah. Public restrooms. I think that that's a clarification. In fact, I think maybe it's new that you don't have to exceed 60 pounds a square foot. And if anything, that is a clarification and or a reduction. I could see times where you, if you had a public restroom that was adjacent to 100-pound a square foot live load, is that supposed to be 100? Is the restroom supposed to be designed for 100 or not? This is clarifying that the restroom itself only has to be 60. Theater projections, control rooms, 50 pounds a square foot. Residential, again, all of these are not changing.
Don't we have decks for residential decks? I thought that was in our amendments for 60 pounds per square foot.
I think that is in here. Residential.
Because I know in the national code it wasn't adopted, but I know in the in our state, I thought we had decks.
I don't see that was in a
because it was 1.5 times the live load, which was 40 times 1.5 gives you 60. I thought that was amendments. I didn't think it's not in ASC 7 and it's not in the, but I thought that was in our state amendments. Am I wrong on that? Did that change?
I don't see that it was not flagged as an amendment.
There previously was an amendment around it, and I'm sorry I'm popping back in here, but you're talking about for balcony and deck loads, the 1.5 times occupancy.
It was 60 pounds per square foot. So you took 1.5 times 40.
Yeah, it gets you the 60. That for sure that was a Washington amendment at some point, and I believe the ASCE shows it, but the IBC does not show it.
No, but it should be 60 pounds. I don't think the ASC shows it either. I have the ASC. They don't.
Once upon a time did. It may have changed, but it certainly had at one point.
Yeah, but I thought we still had it at 60. I don't remember us ever changing that for balconies and decks. That's always been a state amendment.
I understood that to be the case too, just from the design practice. But it did not come up as an amendment. So I think we need to, Dustin, we should, on the residential balconies, we should potentially do a code change to add that as an amendment.
Okay.
But I've been on this for a while. I thought that was still in our state.
I thought so too, just from,
It's not in the model code. The model code kept it at 40, but we kept our state amendment at 60. The last cycles I've been. So that's what I'm saying. In the model code, they kept it at kind of the aux we served. And what it was it was all UBC requirement. But I'm pretty sure we still had that in our state.
So I could speak to the IRC was modified by the state to be 60. So it makes sense that we would offer an amendment for the IBC to also cover the exact same scenario.
Yeah, I had that in my notes. So
I think that that is correct, that we need I think that we may need an amendment for the IBC. Clarify that.
Justin, did you get that?
So I'm adding a line to the significant changes section of this report for table 1607.1, number 27, and we would need to add a line in there for residential decks to be 60 pounds, or we are altering a line.
Yeah, you think you're adding a line?
Yeah.
It was in the 2015 code still. So Dustin, you could probably look back to that one and see what the amendment
Well,
was.
actually, no, wait a minute. It's right here.
Yeah, but yeah, so it is 1.5 times. Yeah, that's exactly what it should be. So that's in the, is that in the IBC?
This is in the I code.
This is table 1607.1.
Yes.
Okay,
I don't think that we need anything. I think that this covers it.
and that's
Yeah,
fine.
it did
because
capture it.
That is correct, because if it's off a bedroom, it's 1.5 times 30. If it's not, it's 1.5 times 40, which gives you 60. I'm sorry about that. I just missed.
That's fine. That's why we're going through these. That's
So I
it.
won't add a line.
Yeah, yeah, I got it. I remembered it. I knew, I thought we updated that, but just,
So roofs, roof areas used for occupancies other than assembly is the same as the occupancy served. I think that is just a clarification.
now I remember, I didn't have it in my notes too. That, because it was 60 again, so,
Okay.
yeah.
So Dustin, I'm gonna have to, let's see if we can find a stopping spot. I'm gonna have to take off here. Maybe
Do
we
we
can
have
get
much more in 1607 in the table here to go through?
nothing on the table, I don't think.
I would propose,
Just
so
stopping.
why don't we
at the end.
maybe table chapter 16
Okay.
with a stop at table 1607.1.
Yeah.
And you won't be available for our next meeting either, right? So we would table this for the meeting after that.
I can try to be available. I might be able to get back for the end of this meeting. I'm not sure, but if we can table that, we will have to table it to get through it, I think. So I can try to make myself available tomorrow, but I can't promise anything yet. We're traveling. I'll be on the road, so having my computer available where I can get internet access is not a sure thing, so.
All righty. Well, I got some notes on that one, so we will table that one until Roger returns. And we're leaving off after table 1607.1.
And I'm gonna turn the
And
chair
then
back over to Dustin.
okay, and just to clarify, I got the changes to your existing significant changes report. Really, just those couple of blocks that had some question marks in them. We put no's in there, and that's the only changes I have to this document so far today.
Yeah.
So I'll save that. We'll back out 16, 17, and 19 for the day.
Okay.
All righty, thank you, Roger. All righty, so with that being said, let's see. The next chapter I would like to go over is going to be chapter 9. And I have some revised documents on that one, bringing them up now. And was this Lance, I believe, did you do the work on this one?
Hey, Dustin, you're talking about chapter 9, right? That
Yes,
was
sir. I don't have my other spreadsheet.
that was
If you're the
mine.
one. Okay. Andy, do you want to kind of lead us through here, and I'll drive and make any edits we need to make?
Sure, yeah. Do you have the reports that I sent out yesterday?
Yeah, I have the revised ones open here. So the ones that you sent previous, I can just get rid of those ones, right?
Yep.
Okay. then this one that you have here is the one that I got yesterday.
Correct. I'm not seeing your screen here. Is it just me or?
Oh, I'm sorry. I forgot I relinquished screen sharing. Here we go. And for some reason, this says restricted access and recipients can't remove encryption. So I'm not sure what's happening in the line there. But we'll work with it. We'll see what will have to do maybe.
I think I saw that too, but I was able to make the changes. So so a lot of these you know, I've made just as an introduction to this, I've made additional revisions or changes to this document based on the fire tag report. I do have one or two questions as we go along here, but the difference, or I guess the where you see the cells noted in yellow, those were basically the amendments that were already in the 2021 Washington State Fire Code, but were not in the building code portion. So I included those amendments in red, as you see, because it would be new in the building code portion. But since it's already approved, by the fire code team, I think, my recommendation would just, to adopt this without going through, I guess, another, doing the formal, proposal to a new state amendment. But
I gotcha. Kind of do it maybe an expedited adoption to correlate with the fire code.
Correct. That would be my suggestion. But again, it's up to the team here on how to proceed with this.
So if I updated the other comments to say just correlation with fire code. All right, you already have that in there. Sorry, never mind.
Yeah, I tried to capture that. But yeah, let me know if I miss anything there.
Does anybody have any comments on making that kind of correlative change?
Are these sections of the IBC and the IFC exactly the same?
Yeah, chapter
Yeah.
9. Chapter 9 is all by the IFC. It's by the fire code. Chapter 9 should be exactly the same.
But the Washington amendments may not be identical between the codes.
So I would add also there in chapter 9 of the fire code, they have additional requirements, I think mostly related to the ITMT inspection, testing, and maintenance, which are not in our side, but I did not obviously include those in here because those are not relevant. But the ones where the texts are identical between the IBC and IFC language, I included this. For example, if we're looking at section 903.2 here, these are the exact same language in the base, both IBC and IFC. But in the IFC portion, there's an exception to there for accepting sprinkler at the bottom of elevator hoistway and enclosed and non-combustible elevator shaft. That was not in the building code portion.
Is it possible that we reference the IFC on here because there's more information on the IFC?
Well, that's what the parentheses are. That's all on the fire code. So they only took out portions of it. They just took out portions in chapter 9 of the fire code that they thought would be helpful for the building code items, but it's not all encompassing of the fire code. So all these things are done by the fire. And so to me, chapter 9 should really be looked at by the fire tag to see if there's any changes on there, and either keep it or take it out, but that just FYI, it's all, that's what the parentheses F is. It's not a building thing. Anywhere where it says parentheses or brackets B or F, then B is also building one. So really this should match the fire code, period. If it doesn't, then we got to figure out why it doesn't. And the fire committee that's on the tag should look at this one and be sure. That's anything that's in chapter 9 that's changed should be verified by the fire committee. That's the way I've always.
So Hoyt, that's why we held off on chapter 9. They're all done with their review of it. So Dustin, did they recommend? Did they have the same recommendation on this section?
I would have to open that one up, but didn't we distribute chapter 9 review of the fire code out to the tag membership here, or?
Correct. Yeah.
or we
So
did?
that's basically I did a review and comparison, right? And they approved these changes in here. So that's why I included the their recommendation in here.
Right. So we should keep it as long as it matches the same with the fire. We should keep it.
Correct. But in here I included this, the text as red just because it's red in the building code portion, but it's if you look at the fire code, it would be green because it's already there from before.
Gotcha. So on this one, we would need some form, not necessarily a proposal from outside of the public, but some sort of a rulemaking initiative as we start forward with making the amendments to the 2024 code. So as I'm seeing it, I think a proposal is needed. Shouldn't necessarily need a ton of review by this group if it's vetted within the fire tag, and we can make that proposal when the time is appropriate and get this included as a correlation.
That sounds great,
Okay.
Dustin. And this
Sounds
is
good.
definitely a reduction in cost amendment, so I should make it even more of a slam dunk.
Yeah, no, it's easy. It's the this is Lance Dahl. This was actually an amendment that came out from Dave Cocott and myself as an emergency rule, a year and a half ago or whatever it was. So we will follow this up and make sure that it stays in there.
All right. We ready to move to our next section? Didn't mean to freeze those. Okay. Moving on to 903.2.13. Have an existing amendment adding an exception to this section. Looks like the recommendation is to keep it. 903.2.1.6. Have an existing amendment to this section, and there you go. Now I can see it all. Changing some language with the recommendation to keep that amendment. With the next one for nightclub as well, keeping that amendment unchanged. 903.2.3 is our next one. Let me just check in here. 2.2.2. So we have this one in here. No amendment recommended for this change here. We have 903.2.3 with the recommendation to keep this existing amendment. (903.2.4) with a cost increase on this one identified, but no amendment needed. (903.2.6) with an existing amendment with no suggested modifications to this amendment. . We have 903.2.7.3 with a cost increase, but no suggested amendment. And lithium ion and lithium metal batteries are been added into the fire code. So they have a whole new section in that work. 3.2.8 Group R with an existing amendment and no modifications suggested for that one. Then we get to adult family home. We have this one highlighted in yellow.
So,
Andy, did you have something?
Sorry, Dustin, on the 90. Yeah, I guess that was it. Yeah. Sorry, I jumped ahead. So 903.2.8.4. That was a similar case as the first one there. I think we should probably put as a proposal needed for this one as well, because this was in the fire code, the state amendment in the fire code, but not in the building code.
I'll be right back. Just a second.
Hey, Dustin, I'm not hearing your voice. Is it just me or group two?
I wasn't hearing anything either.
No,
Yeah, I think it was everybody because I was on mute. Apologize. So as we kind of left off at adult family homes, do we want to talk about that one a little more?
My only issue with that is I just don't know why it's needed in the IBC, considering adult family homes are IRC structures.
Yeah, but sometimes they'll use the IBC. And it was the reason it was put in there is to make sure they didn't miss the automatic sprinkler system. You're right. If it's an IRC, remember you can always do the IBC for an R3 structure. So that was the reason why it's in there. So
Okay, so if they build over a 3-story adult family home,
well, you can even do a 1-story all IBC if you want. You don't have to use the IRC. Just have fun.
I know, but I think you get where I'm going with that.
Yeah,
It just seems like it's unnecessary, but it can't hurt by having it in there. So I'm not suggesting we take it out.
Yeah, the only thing that I would change, you know what it says, NFPA 13D, okay? If you actually look at the references, that should actually reference, if we're in the IBC, they have that in the beginning of chapter 1, 13, I believe, don't they? Correct me if I'm wrong. 13D, 13R, and a full 13. I could be wrong on that in the beginning, but you could keep the 13D, that's fine. It's not a big deal. In the beginning of chapter 9.
So that would, yeah, I guess that would be adding 13 and 13R, because it's in the
code
of the IBC.
Yeah, if you look in the IBC in chapter 1 or beginning of chapter 9, it breaks off those categories. But now thinking about it, I don't think they have a 13D in the IBC. I think it's either 13R or full 13. I'd have to open up the code.
So then, just to make a parallel, I guess, comparison with the IFC, because IFC only references 13D. I guess the question is, should we even adopt this, or I guess the other option would be to replace 13D in here, because if that was a 13D, it would not be under the IBC, it would be under the IRC. If it's under the IBC, then that would be, the sprinkler would be designed under 13 or 13R.
So
So-
for this one,
Look at the
we would
section
need,
where it says 903.3.1.3. You know, those sections, those actually in the
Right.
beginning of chapter there, but I can't remember top of my head. I have to open up the code. If someone has the code open, I don't have it in front of me right now. I don't know if they have a 13D in chapter 9 called out. I don't think so.
They do.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
do. It's that same reference, 903.3.1.3. That's the D system.
Yeah, to be honest, I think we should change it. We should change that then. We should put it as the 903. That's my that's my opinion. We should actually make
So-
it exactly like the code.
for this particular section we're talking about, this would need a proposal to be added to this code. And, you know, when we receive a proposal to include this in the IBC, we can wordsmith it further at that time. Like, so at the moment, this is just a suggested edit and it's not really needed for inclusion in the significant changes or existing amendments report. But I would like to leave it in here in the body of the Word document we have as a placeholder for something we want to work on when it's proposal time.
Okay, I thought that was
Sounds good.
in the existing amendments. I thought they had that in the existing amendments, didn't they?
I thought that this one was a fire code only amendment is what I thought I heard in the discussion. So look in.
Oh, yeah.
it's-
It is a fire code. Remember, just there is a state proposal right here, since you're here, changing this thing, right, to greater than 7 or 8, I don't understand why it says with a capacity of 7 or 8, the surge, it should be of 7 or more, but that's just me, because I think we're going to a larger adult family homes in certain, that's in legislation right now, just FYI.
Okay.
I think all that can get fleshed out, like Dustin says, but I think there's nuances to that, meaning 7 or 8 is the only thing that requires a sprinkler system. Under 7 doesn't require a sprinkler system at all. And then if it's not 7 or 8, then it does need to be probably a 13R system to be compliant with an R2 provision. So there's a lot of nuances going on there.
Yeah, that's how I interpreted it. That's the way I've always interpreted it too, but just wanted to be sure. Because that's going to be changing to 12, so just giving Dustin a heads up that it's in legislation right now about changing some of this.
And I also think on this one, the 7 or 8 is because of licensing requirements.
Yeah, that's correct. That's correct. That's what I'm saying. But there's a legislation coming through that some of us have been aware of. They want to be under the IRC for more.
So just so you know, Hoyt, that legislation went through, I think it was 2 years ago. So that's why we made those changes to the IRC. So the IRC does allow this with the sprinkler system for 7 or 8. Again, I don't think it's really needed because it won't be used, but it can't hurt to have in there just in case somebody built a 4-story adult family home that's 7 or 8 occupants. I just don't think that'll really happen.
What if there's 9?
If there's 9, then I believe it becomes a separate occupancy, either an R2 or even a I2 condition, whatever.
Okay, thank you. I always thought that was weird that it said 7 or 8. So, personally.
I agree. We kind of talked about similar stuff with the family home child care, kind of how the wording should be to indicate that more than 6 in there. Anyway, sidetrack. So moving on to 903.2.11 or .9, sorry, in the is a significant change. We have an additional item number 5 here with no recommended modification to that section. 2.9, make sure I'm in the right spot. Moving down, we have 903.291. which isn't in here, but I assume is similar, as a number 5 with no recommendation.
Yeah, if you can include that as well in the just part of 903.2.9, but yeah, doesn't hurt to add another line there.
All right. 903.2.11.1.3. 1.3, here we are. Existing amendment, recommendation to modify it. Next coming up, looks like another correlation with the fire code item. And I would say that this one will need a proposal when the time is right. And if we want to adjust what we have here on this screen, we should do that after we receive the proposal on that.
Great.
Is there any heads up comments on this one at all? I don't think there should be. No legislation pending, I assume.
Is that yellow? Correct me if I'm wrong. Is that our state amendment?
This
that
is
was the that was
No.
just the state amendment in the fire code portion,
Right.
not in the building code.
Yeah. Is that anything highlighted yellow as kind of a correlation item with the fire code? Andy?
Correct. Yes. I think with the exception of the one in the table there, which that was also the correlation with the the Washington State Amendment, but it was more of at the national level that they missed that because special amusement is no longer, a building, but an area. So not sure why they have not made that amendment there. If we look at 411.3, I guess later on we can confirm that should say special amusement area, not building. I think I got to include that in.
Andy, do you think there's maybe some correlation between that and, this being sprinkler protection systems, in enclosed spaces per se? So they're calling those buildings like they want it to be that way? Versus chapter 4 where they make the change because it could be, could be for anything,
Yeah, let me double check. I think the fire code also indicates area. Didn't have that open yet.
I think this was the reason they wanted area is because like Cirque du Soleil or things like that, where they come up and put a tent area in there and people were calling that not a building. They're saying that's an area, it's just covered since it's there and it's over 90 days and stuff. That's what I remember at the hearing. That's why they said special amusement area was why it got added that way. So. And that was all for the fire people were talking about that. So, because you put a tent as an area, as a building. So when it's over 180 days.
Yeah, it says area as well, but it was more of the change in the model code in the IFC. So it's the word area was indicated as blue in the IFC.
Yeah, that's why they were doing that. That's why they were doing that. That was the reason behind it.
So for this one, I'm just putting a orange line in here so I can come back and add this after we wrap with this one. But as far as we got, the change here would be also a correlation with the fire code, as I understand it.
Yeah, the I portion. Sorry, the, 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 the base IFC, not the Washington State Amendment.
Gotcha. All right, moving to 903.2.11.7. It's a state amendment with no proposed modifications to that one. And 903.3.1.2. We have this one here, an existing state amendment with no proposed changes to that one. It looks like we'll skip over to 903.3. Not quite in here. We can add this one in here in a second. 903.3. Okay.
Yeah, it would be the same comment as the one
Just
above it.
keep the model code language. To this one, 903.3.5.2. Is this maybe just a typo right here?
I think that should be correct. The
My eyes
3.5.3.
are typoing. I'm sorry. I'm reading the black above and skipping the stuff in green. So never mind.
So
and is the
this is
these are fire code exceptions?
correct. Yes, we should put proposal. Into it.
Okay. Nine oh three dot four. Keep all new model code changes in 903.4. Okay. Nine oh four dot 1.2. So in here, but the recommendation is keep the new model code change. All right. 904.14. Top new statement. Looks like it's a fire code amendment to this section. So there is no amendment to this section as I am looking.
Yeah, well, actually, I think exception 1. I'm sorry, I thought. I need to double check it out quickly now because yeah, I think that was just a mistake in the spreadsheet where it shows as green. I think that was that should be black. That was all.
There's exception. Should this be, oh, it should be black all the way in this section?
Yeah, not sure why it shows as.
Okay. 2, keep the new model change, and 904.14.1. I know 5.3, keep the model code change. So on some of these that aren't in the spreadsheet, would you just, are we gonna deem these as not significant changes to include in this report?
That one seems to be significant because it seems like a new, yeah, that was my mistake for skipping a bunch of those.
That's okay.
Not sure what's happening there.
I know that in my own work on some of the code text, you go through, work on the Word document and start trying to fill things in and scroll past something real easy and miss it. So, no sweat.
Mm.
Right. So far, no changes in these model code sections, just recommending keeping them. For stuff in this table, keep the new lines and numbers for the table.
I just want to emphasize, we should always compare this with the fire tag group or the group that's doing it for the fire, just to make sure. Because they should be going through this chapter too. So, just want to emphasize that.
Gotcha. So did send out the fire tag review of chapter 9. And are you suggesting we send this work back to the fire tag just to have them touch base on it one more time?
I would, just to make sure there's no differences, because chapter 9 is just supposed to be a copy right out of the fire code. I mean,
right.
So I just think it's a good idea to have them double check, because I did not compare back and I personally, just go off the chapter 9 that's in the International Building Code, but there are some times when there's discrepancies, and our fire guy, he does the fire review, usually catches that. That's just my experience. I just don't know if there's amendments, because I didn't look at that. So
yeah,
I think that was a good idea. Yeah, I think that's a good idea. I went through and compare the two reports, the one that I submitted to you, Dustin, and the one that I received from you from the fire tech team.
Mhm.
But I think it doesn't hurt to get another pair of eye to, compare these.
Gotcha. (907.21). Keep the new model code change. And okay. Looks good. 907.2.2.2. New model code language. Keep the section, no modification suggested. 907.2.3, Group E. Existing amendment. No suggested modifications. 907.2.3.1 sprinkler systems. Existing amendment with no suggested modifications. 907.241. Manufacturing involving lithium ion or lithium metal batteries, new section with no suggested modifications. Yep.
907.2.
Hey, wait, I think you're cut out.
Keep existing amendment. Okay, never mind.
Nine oh seven dot two dot six dot four. Right here. Existing amendment, no changes. Keep it. 907.2.7 has some new model code language and looking to keep it. 907.2.7.2 new language to keep.
That has to do with the lithium ions. There's a bunch of changes for that, for new storage of those things. So.
Yep. And I believe that there's some movement on some modifications to those sections within the fire code that hopefully will correlate as well if they are happening into this code as well. So just that's on the horizon.
Yeah, I figured that. There's been a lot to talk on the national level on this stuff for these lithium ions on batteries.
907.2.10.2 new language to keep. 907.2.11.1 existing amendment with a little bit of model code language change. Keep the amendment and I assume incorporate the model code language.
Yes.
What was the amendment?
It's number 2 here.
What the left?
Oh, okay.
Oh, I'm sorry. There's no model code language in there. It's just 907.2.11, and we're looking at .11.1. Josh.
Sorry to jump in here, but I'm gonna have to go, and I just want to notify you for quorum and roll taking purposes.
Okay, gotcha. I think we should still be good, but I'll have to double check that real quick.
I will see you folks tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you, Josh. All right, close down my roll call sheet. This one goes give me problems.
Is it possible the state amendments in green, each loft constructed according to this, right? Is it possible, since we're doing this, because what gets confusing, there's already 1 and then number 2 is number 3 and number 4. Shouldn't that number 2 be number 4 and number it afterwards to keep it clear? Is it, I mean, that's more of an editorial thing. Is that possible to do that?
I don't see why not.
Yeah, the only reason is then you'd have to go through and correlate. I mean, you would have to go back and see, does anywhere in the code, does it reference you to 907.2.11.1 item 2? I mean, you know what I'm
Or
saying?
3. Yeah.
Well, now it'd be 3 if you put it as 2. Just make that the other people's input. Just make number 2 4 and just move 3 to 2 and 4 to 2. I mean 4 to 3.
Let's see, 972.1.
What do other people think? What do other people think about that? I mean,
I totally agree. I mean, if we can, we should always do that so that we don't have to. So we do have less correlation work.
Yeah, I agree. Wasn't even sure why it wasn't added as the last item anyways. Or maybe 3 and 4 or 4 in 907.2.11.2, maybe it was added after our state amendments.
Yeah,
But yeah.
that's what happened. Yeah, that's what ended up happening. Things got changed as time went on. And that's happened in other sections. I don't know specifically about this one, but that happened in other sections in the code. And we've always tried to move our state past, move the numbering so it's really clear that it's a state amendment. So, but that's happened before. It's not the first time I've seen this.
Okay. Who was it that just left the room? I'm sorry, I'm just.
Oh, okay. I just assume that's editorial. It's not not something that needs, I mean, we need to approve the amendments and stuff, but I believe that's just an editorial thing, changing the numbering. But please correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, I guess once we've confirmed that there's no references to item 2 or item 3 in, other parts of the code. Guess relative to our amendment, as well as if the model code exceptions there will reference anywhere in the code as well.
Yeah, you'd have to check both. You'd have to check where in our state amendments do we reference 2, and then where does it reference 3 or 4 anywhere else. You'd have to do a double check, unless if you put it at the end, you wouldn't have to worry about it.
Yeah, I almost feel like we should probably put it at the end so that we can easily double check just the state amendment portion. That would be easier.
Again, I agree. And just to add on to it, there's other reference documents, not just correlation within the code, so commentaries and all of those types of things. It just makes more sense if we can have those other items line up with those other reference materials. Why not?
Okay. So
Yeah,
for this
so I
one,
guess in
Go
this
ahead.
case, Dustin, I guess you're gonna be running it by the fire tech team anyways. So they should probably make something consistent with what we're proposing as well then.
All right, so the suggestion to correlate both this section and in the fire code is to move number 2 to the end after model code language. That way, if any of these sections are referenced elsewhere in the code, we don't have to correlate it.
Correct. It looks like our next section, we're going to look at the exact same thing too.
That's what I do all the time. I do work on the ICC code and correlation, and I know we're not supposed to miss these things, but that is so easy to miss.
Can't believe you guys missed it.
No, I'm saying it can be missed. I'm not saying we
I
missed
know, I'm just joking. I'm just joking. All right. 907.2.11.2, same thing. I will just copy this into this one. Doing it right. No, I don't want to do whatever it's doing. Okay. 907.2.11 taken care of with a suggestion to push this after model code language. 907.2.11.3 to
Just an FYI, that would pretty much be throughout the whole thing where these come up. I mean, that would be my recommendation. I mean, if that, it seems like that's the simplest thing to do throughout all the chapters. So.
So no recommendations on this section. 907.2.12, similar. All right. Nine oh seven dot 5.2.1.2.
Yeah, I always thought so there was some existing state amendment in the building code portion, which is the starting on the second sentence there, but in the fire code portion, somehow it seems to me like editorial, but you know, maybe if you read it more carefully, then you know there may be some different meanings on the first sentence there. So the first sentence amendment there was in the fire code portion, but not in the building code.
What was
So
in the
what's struck?
the total, the
Go ahead.
total, the total total sound pressure?
Yeah, the state amendment in the fire code changed the word total to maximum, and then whatever the words after pressure level they're produced by combining the ambient sound pressure level with all. That was crossed out as well in the fire code for state amendment though. Seems to me like mostly editorial, but there may be some meaning behind.
Yeah, I'd be curious on this one. I didn't realize this because the total sound pressure, when you have multiple operating appliances, that's a hearing issue. That's where the 110 decibels came in. So does it affect people's hearing system? And I think the intent in the model code, okay, I'm just telling you the model code was if you had multiple operating machinery in a room, right? The maximum sound pressure or for this audible alarm things, if you had multiple systems that were actually doing it, the sound pressure shouldn't exceed 110 decibels. But in this case, it might not make a real difference. It does seem editorial, but I do see in the green, it seems to kind of deal with that. I'm not sure on this one either. I'd be curious what the fire people say on that one.
Hey, Andy, just out of curiosity too, for the green that you're seeing here, the four systems operating in public mode, did we verify that that was also a state amendment in the fire code?
It is.
Correct. Yes.
Perfect.
So the one highlighted in
recommendation-
yellow was the one that was missing from the building code state amendment.
I think you kind of get to the same thing. You know, it says maximum sound pressure, so it's not that big a deal. I would interpret it the same, but that's just me.
Then 907.9. Let me look at that one. I'm not sure why our WAC has 907.9 reserved. But let's scroll to the section here.
That's because at one time we had that section, right? And now they dropped
Right.
it. They dropped
It's
it
just
out.
my understanding that the WAC numbers get reserved, not the code section numbers.
Oh, I see what you're saying. I think that's where it came from because at one time it was there.
And so if we, as a cleanup, if we remove 907.9, 907.10, and the rest needs to be numbered, correct?
I'm looking it up right now.
Yeah. Yeah, thanks. Good. I wouldn't know. I mean, I always feel hesitant if I can just keep reserved and do it like this. I mean, it's the easy way out though, so I don't know. You
Does
could,
anybody here know if this NISAT certification has any sort of relation to the NAFED certification, NISAT stuff that we just passed in the fire code?
you'd have to ask the fire marshal on that. I don't know the answer to that personally.
I'm not well versed in it, only that the NAFED stuff was kind of issued out of the fire code, and there's some delayed implementation for the NISAT requirements, and I was just curious if anybody knew much on this particular amendment here. I have to go back and look into it some more to speak on further.
I do not.
Yeah,
so
I'm seeing here in the fire code tag report here, the word is slightly different. So in addition to NISAT level 3, there's the ESA NTS certified firearm designer CFAD level 3. So I'm assuming that's what you were talking about, Dustin.
No, well, there's a whole difference. I know we're in a different section here, but the licensing requirement I'm referring to is in reference to pre-engineered kitchen systems, and
Oh.
just kitchen systems, but pre-engineered systems. And currently effective in Washington is NAFED licensing, and with the adoption of the 2021 code, we had a delay in effectiveness for the NISAT licensing, which was going to be July. And with the delay of all the codes in the last cycle, that delay date didn't get shifted out appropriately. And so just after the last council meeting with emergency rule, we filed to change the effective date to be January 1 of next year for the implementation date for NISAT licensing for pre-engineered systems. And I was just curious that, NISAT's here, and I don't know if prior to the inclusion here, if it was up to the local jurisdiction as it was in that section I'm referring to, and then updated to NAFED and now to NISAT, or what. So I'm probably asking a question that requires a bit deeper dive than I was hoping to do today. So I would like to continue with the recommendation on this one to keep the existing amendment for now.
I would do just I personally don't know the answer to that question.
Okay.
Agreed. .6.1.
That's just editorial stuff.
Yeah. Same thing with this one.
The only thing I would do, when they reference the NFPA, there are different code sections in there. Make sure you look at in the reference section at the back of the chapters to make sure that hasn't changed. I always double check that. But the head it shouldn't have changed, but just to make sure there's not something.
Yeah. Would it be attractive to this group if we took a bio break?
No, that's fine with me.
Great idea.
How about it's 3:22 now? How about we reconvene right at 3:30?
That's good.
That sounds great. I just, so you know, I have to drop off at 4 o'clock.
Okay.
But the alternate's here, so Steve can vote for building officials.
Sure, I'm here.
Okay.
Thanks. Okay.
Thank you, Dustin.
Awesome. I'll see you right back here at 3:30. All right, welcome back. I'll do a quick roll call of people I am expecting to be here. We have Chef Fortaleza. Not here yet, but still online. Tim Wood. Still online. Steve Belzak. Can I get a mic check to just make sure I'm being heard?
I can hear you.
Or
Yeah, I can hear
okay.
you.
Just making sure. I'll assume that if I see your name on the attendee list that we're good to go. I won't complete a full roll call. I might do one right before we make a motion on this chapter. All right, so 909.20.5.4. The next one here, recommending keeping the model.
I don't see your screen saved or shared.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Thank you. All right, so 909.20.5.4 for smoke detection, new code language with no recommended modifications. 909.21, similar new code language with no suggested modifications. 909.21.12. Let me take a peek at this one as well.
Dustin, on this one, there was a state amendment in the 2020, let's see, 21 portion. However, that was related to a hoistway venting, which was already removed in the previous. The whole requirement for hoistway venting in I think somewhere in chapter 30 was already removed since 2018, I believe. And I wasn't sure why the state did not remove the hoistway venting for the pressurization, which seems odd. But I thought it was probably something that was missed. So I included the wording there in row 145 in the Excel spreadsheet. So if we read that, hoistway venting did not be provided for pressurized elevator shafts. Now, if we don't have pressurized elevator shafts, someone's reading that, it would mean that you would need to provide hoistway venting. Whereas the whole requirement for providing hoistway venting was already removed in this code. Or in the 2021, yeah. So I'm proposing to.
Are you saying that elsewhere in the state amendments, this section was removed and this just is a relic requirement in this code?
Yeah, so section 3009, I believe, was for hoistway venting. Previously in this I think 2015, 2012 and 2015, I believe, state amendments. But since 2018, I believe in the second version of the 2018 Washington State building code, it was already removed and it wasn't here in 2021. But these particular requirements still maintained, right? This 909.21.12 is still maintained. I'm proposing to remove this because this would cause confusion.
Okay. Trent, you have your hand up?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I just have to let you know I have to leave it in about 10 minutes, 3:45.
Okay.
And I know Josh has already left and I'm his alternate, so
We'll still maintain quorum if you head out.
okay.
You said you're heading out at 3:45?
Yeah.
Noted. Thank you. Hoyt, you have your hand up?
Yeah, I wasn't sure I understood that correctly. I think 21-12 was reserved because of XYZ reasons, like we did for other places in case we had to add something in there. So 2113, what happens in the new code, there is no 909-21.12 anymore. So you had the reserve probably from an old state amendment, I'm guessing. And so now there's 13. I don't know if you want to keep the reserve and then keep the machine room pressurization thing for 13 or move 13 to 12. I don't know. My recommendation would be move 13 to 12 and then make 921.13 reserve. But that's what I would do because there is no 921.12 anymore. So.
Correct.
Hoyt,
That's what I would-
sorry. I was confusing earlier. So, in the 2021 Washington State Building Code, there was still that state amendment for hoistway venting. I'm suggesting that we're removing that one because the whole requirement for hoistway venting was originated in section 3009, which was a state amendment up until 2015 Washington State Building Code.
Yeah,
Section 3009 was no longer, it was removed in 2018, I think, at least in the second edition of 2018. But this 909.21.12 is still maintained at least until the current code cycle. I'm proposing to remove it in the 2024 version of Washington State Building Code. And to do that, my understanding is we need to put a reserve or have that section being reserved.
Yeah, so on this one, if the recommendation is to remove the state amendment because it's no longer required elsewhere in the code, we'd be looking for a proposal on this one to remove it. Shouldn't be a lot of argument for that reason. And if we were to remove it, we should renumber machine rooms with its removal. And then for the one below here, there we go. All right. Excuse me. Does that work for these two sections? Recommend removing it since it's no longer relevant, and then renumbering this one with that removal on here.
Yep.
Okay. (911.1.2).
Yeah, that was just to change the rating of the FCC room from 1 hour to 2 hour. It's small.
Okay, tiny amendment. Big impact. I was like, I don't see anything there. Okay. 911.1.2. Keeping it.
My question is on this. All right, if it's possible to do a little research to see why the fire command center, because it's in the fire code, to coordinate that to make sure the 2 hour is correct. Because the IFC I know changed also to the 1 hour. So the IFC, if the fire people do not, if they say, oh, let's keep the 1 hour, now we're gonna have a conflict. So this needs to be run by the fire tag too, to see if the 2 hour is correct, or, because we don't want to have one in the IBC different than what's in the fire code. So this is something that needs to be verified.
Yeah, let me, well, that's
It looks like the
interesting.
fire code doesn't have an amendment on this section.
Well, hang on that, because section 911 in the fire code is for explosion control, so I'm not sure where the fire command. Oh, sorry, it's in the 914.
Yeah, it's a different section. That's the thing. It's because they have other sections. What I'm saying is we need to verify this. I don't think we should just keep it without a double check, because there could be a conflict from the IFC and this one. So.
Yeah, it's in, I believe it's in section 508 of the fire code. Yeah, in the fire code, it's section 508. So whoever's doing chapter 5 of the fire code.
Okay.
Is that the same thing, what it says in 508 for the fire code too? They match?
I have not got.
I have it. It's Steve here. I'm sorry. I do show 508.12 in the current fire code calls for a 2 hour separation.
There was a state amendment, or?
Yes, in the 2018.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep. Which is the only amendment in section 508.
Okay. As long as they keep that in the fire code, they didn't change it, then we should keep it. So.
We haven't reviewed that chapter yet there. That will probably be handled at our next meeting. We'll be starting off at chapter 5.
Yeah, I'm sorry to bring that up. I just don't want to have it something different in the building than in the IFC, because chapter 9 should be right out of the IFC. So.
Yep, no, that's good. Thanks for pointing that out. So the next one on the existing amendment here, I don't know if there's any other in between 911 and 913.
This one just looks like it's out of place here. 907.10.
Oh, sorry. I forgot to replace when I copied the requirement. So that was actually 913.2.1. Dustin, if you could change the number in the spreadsheet there, but the wording was correct. That was the protection for fire pump rooms.
This one right here.
Yeah, 913.2.1. So the one in green was already our state amendment from before. The one in red was clarification in NFPA 20. If you look at the reference there, it was coming from the same or similar place in NFPA 20. The one in red was already adopted by the city of Bellevue, at least. Not sure about the other jurisdiction. So since the requirement was coming from pretty much the same location in NFPA 20, I think we could propose that and include that in our amendment.
I thought that was already in exception number 2. They just I think
that was
more specific on the section in the red. That's the only difference.
Yeah, I think in NFPA 20 that was a different exception as well. But they still have the one that I propose in red there. So it was somewhat a separate like two separate exceptions in NFPA 20. The one that's physically separated, and then the one where the fire pump room is provided with sprinkler that does not rely on the fire pump room, which is basically what that red sentence is there.
But I thought it only dropped to 1 hour. Does it say? So you look at exception 1. Oh, that was for high-rise buildings. I see what you're saying. This is for parking garages. Okay.
Yeah, and exception 2 is different than the text in red. The text in red basically saying that fire pump room and I guess the adjacent area perhaps in the parking garage is provided with the sprinkler system that does not rely on the fire pump itself. So NFPA 20 has that exception that you don't need to protect your passageway to get to the fire pump room when it's installed, underground or elsewhere in the building.
Does that work here to keep the existing amendment, but we'll need a proposal to incorporate the fire code amendment language and to adopt the exceptions here?
Actually, that was not the model code language. That was well, that was the exception in NFPA 20.
Oh. We'll incorporate NFPA 20.
NFPA 20, section 413. Our state just actually added that into our model code then, basically, rather than number 2, right? It's just for parking garages though, so. It's interesting. I'm not familiar with this actual section, so I don't know. So
yeah, I was just aware of this when Bellevue started putting this in their code and digging deeper into NFPA 20, and apparently it was coming from NFPA 20 itself. So I didn't check if this. I guess I did not check when this specific exception was added in NFPA 20.
Yeah, because it says not required, right? Protected areas of the pump room shall not be required for NFPA 20. So down below, separation is not required for fire pump in accordance with NFPA 20. It seems very. The only thing they have in here is parking garages. They added a little more, so.
Yeah, only if that parking garage is supported by sprinkler that does not rely on the fire pump, which is which can be done, except that they would have a different manifold to the system.
So we have good notes on this one for the report then?
What did
I can
think on this?
Okay.
From exception 2 and the other one. That's all I don't know if other people, anyone else on here.
It's only Andy and Tim unmuted. It looks like nobody else has anything they want to say on that one for the moment. We're at 9:15.1.1.
So
new language and an exception.
yeah, we had a lot of amendments here in this section in 2021, and a lot of them got picked up in the model code, with the exception of item 5 there. So item 5 was added into this section, similar to the suggestion from the fire tech team.
Would it be appropriate as a potential change to instead of saying with the exception of R2 college dormitories, just put an exception to number 5 and put R2 college dormitories? It's little, but I don't know. Just throwing it out.
I think
Yeah,
that
we could.
follows the rest of the structure of the code, Dustin, so that makes sense to me. Just a confusion thing a little bit on this, Andy. Just looking at the numbering is still in green. Does that just not get changed? So like theoretically 1, 2, 3, 4 is all just straight new
Yeah,
code. Okay.
It might have
Yeah, it
happened
should
when
be.
he made this line green. It might have just filled those up as green.
Gotcha.
I thought this was a weird exception because if you read the code section, right? You're not saying this is an exception, but I always thought carbon monoxide shall be installed in new buildings in accordance with this. And oh, I see what it is. So it's on just R2 occupancy. I thought you had to have carbon monoxide in R1 also. Maybe I'm wrong. You don't have to have carbon monoxide in R1s? I thought you did.
You would, but it's covered under item 1, right? So item 5, I think item 5 there was intended to exclude the college dormitory.
And why would we exclude college dormitory for carbon monoxide detection?
That was a good question. I think it was let me check the language in 2021. I think that was coming from the language in 2021. The state amendment in 2021.
I mean, again, I would just add that, like Andy pointed out, exception 1 or condition 1 on here, where it contains a CO source, it would capture anything that has a gas appliance in it. So I don't know, maybe it's making R2 college dormitories more consistent with what we do in the IRC requirements, which is, you know, if you have gas appliances, then you do have to install.
What this says, it says all R2 occupancies with the exceptions of R2 dormitory. But if you have an R2 college dormitory, you don't have to put a carbon monoxide in?
Yeah, that was the exception 1 in the exception 1 in the 2021 Washington State Building Code. Unless we're proposing to remove it, then we could, you know, have a proposal out there. But I was just trying to correlate what the state amendments in 2021 and make it consistent with the model code change in 2024.
I think I've missed that. I think I've required it before. I thought it was required, but that's interesting.
I think that the current state amendment is more clear and has more detail in it than what they've put in the 24 base code there. So I think we would need to maintain our amendment. I agree, we need to find a way to correlate it with the current changes, but But I think that needs more than just the added exception.
You're saying exception 2 should also be included?
Yes.
Sorry, exception 2 in the current in the 2021 version.
Yes, because it clarifies these particular situations. If we just say, you know, all group R2 with the exception of R2 college dormitories, that says all college dormitories don't have to have detection. Whereas our current amendment more clarifies that if they don't have fuel burning appliances, then they're exempt. It is a significant difference.
Yeah, that's how I've thought. If there's no things that they're burning and stuff, that's the way I've always thought it was. But if they had anything that was cooking or something, you had to have a carbon monoxide.
Yeah,
So,
it's not a blanket exception of R2. It's a limited exception of R2
yeah, that's how I've
and
always.
R1.
But again, if you guys look at number 1 there, and that would be applicable to any occupancy, right? And it says if it contains a CO source. So that is any fuel burning appliance, anything that produces CO. So
But
it
then
is kind of covered. It's just different.
It is kind of covered, but then in number 5, you're saying with the exception of R2 college dormitories. And
Which
that
was
thing
the
doesn't apply that way.
so state amendment number exception number 1, the one that Dustin highlighted there, R2 occupancy with exception of R2 college dormitories are required to install carbon monoxide detectors without exception. So theoretically, that exception 1 was what I tried to capture in item 5 on the right.
Yeah, I just think it needs the rest of that language to be clear.
Yeah, like exception 2 was included as well, I guess.
Yes.
Dustin, this should be run with the fire tech team as well, because this was what I got directly from them.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with Mike, and I also agree the fire tag. You should bring this up to them. See what they. I think that's a mistake. So.
I could get there either way though, because it does say where any of the conditions exist in the new portion. So as soon as you have a CO source at all, number 5, it doesn't matter, right, what it says. As soon as you have a CO source, it's required. But I get where you guys are both coming from. I kind of like the other wording better, but we try to stick with the model code if we can, if it has the same intent. It seems to be our normal approach anyway.
So it looks like to me like the model code didn't change all that much from 2021 to 24, but our state amendment is significantly different than the layout of it, where we have exceptions, but then we have these conditions existing. And it is looking funny to me in there. I'm working on getting the 2021 model code up.
So here's how just to let you guys know, where it says condition in a building that contains a CO source. Every project that I've had done on this, they've always installed one of them, but they don't know if there's a CO source at all. They use the combo smoke alarm, CO2 combo thing. I have for a while, I have not seen, and we have the R2 college dormitories and stuff. I have not seen them not put in a CO source in these things. So I find that weird, but that's just, I just have automatically seen them do it, but by the code, they don't have to, so.
So I would wait. This it's been on the books for a while, and it just
Yeah, I know this has been on a few cycles. I think we should just verify that with the fire guys, because they're the ones that really, in my opinion, see if they really actually want that. I think it's a mistake, especially for eye occupancies, but that's just my opinion.
Yeah. I would just add to it, they got to change everything back. They got to start all the way back at the beginning of 915.1.1. If they're going to go back, so because there is differences, and
yeah, and the reference, the different subsections are referenced also, which play into this just as much. So it's like each of the subsections, everything needs to be assessed, and take the intent of the current amendment and make sure it's covered clearly. They rearranged it all, and I think sitting here, we're not going to unarrange it and figure out exactly the impact, but it does need to be assessed.
Okay.
I agree with you. I agree that it needs to be looked at a little more, and I hope the fire tag looks at it.
Yeah. So we don't necessarily want to, we need to just review this amendment for appropriate drafting.
Yeah, I agree too. It's just, again, I think the new code is going to be more restrictive in some areas, and I think it still has the same intent, but there's just a lot going on there that somebody outside of this meeting should sit down and spend some real time looking into. And I don't know how much Andy dug into it, but Andy, I mean, have you evaluated it for all of like those new exceptions, considering it's any of them, if they capture everything that was in 1 and 2?
So yeah, I think the whole section in 915 was pretty much somewhat rearranged there. They removed the see, I'm losing my pointers here. So yeah, they renumbered some of those. I think the exceptions that we had previously were, so let me see how I put it. So in general, the 2024 model code is more restrictive than 2021 model code.
Yeah, I noticed that too, because the old one was just I's and R's, and now it's everything except for S, F, and U's. So it's being more applicable to other occupancies.
Right. The exceptions that Washington State had in or has currently in the 2021, those two exceptions are, I guess to me, I think we need to assess that more, and the fire tech team should probably assess that as well, because those, I guess the question is, are those exceptions still applicable given the current model code amendment in 2024? And my recollection looking at this, the only thing that was not really captured, and it looks like a relaxation over the model code both in 2021 and 2024, were this item 5 in here.
Yeah, that's correct. That's the one I'm worried about, not the other ones. I'm worried about item 5. I'd like to have the fire guys and the fire tag.
Right.
That actually should be an amendment to our code.
Yeah, and maybe we make an amendment over our previous amendment in 2021 code, right?
It's just a point of order. Is that so? Say that the model code does get more restrictive, and so it's exceeding what our requirements were before. Do we have to add back in our relaxations?
Potentially, yes.
Okay.
It was also a relaxation in the 2021 Washington State building code though.
So this is Roger. I'm back, and I've been listening in. I think the answer to the question is that we would need to flag that as that's an added cost if it's more if the model code gets more restrictive. So we certainly need to flag, the model code is now more restrictive than what our amendment was. And I think as far as moving forward, having heard the conversation, I am on the fire code tag as well. I think that the right way to do it in the spreadsheet there, Dustin, is to say we do need to have an amendment. And then in the notes, we need to say that amendment needs to be coordinated with the IFC tag. And then that we need to, moving forward, there needs to be, conversations with the IFC tag, and we really need to drill down on what the modified amendment or the new amendment, what it needs to be.
Agreed.
All righty. So if this one needs to be further review for sure.
Yes. And I'm surprised fire people would have approved this. From my experience with all the fire groups that I know, they don't usually go less restrictive. So this will be interesting. Find out what the outcome is.
I'm curious if this changed looks the same within the fire code.
I could easily just see them saying take out number 5 and move on, since the new model code is more restrictive. So
yeah, that's what I think is going to happen too. I agree with you on that one.
I agree as well, except I'm wondering, is there a legislative background from to that where that came from in the first place? I think that needs to be looked at to see what the legislative intent was, because I think what did come from the legislature, if I'm recalling correctly. So that's the piece that needs to be researched to make sure that we're still consistent.
Dustin, is there a history of when this was first added as I guess exception 1 in the Washington State Building Code?
There is history on it, but it's not the most accessible information to just pull up right here. But I was running through here and click into here and check the filings that affect this section. We'll see.
I don't know about all you, but when I was in college, I was not the safest person in the world. I was like, where do I am now? So.
yeah, I'm thinking of college dorms and CO producing appliances. Would that be, paraphernalia used to smoke different things? And I think you'd always get back to a CO2 being required again.
That's how I feel too, is that as an adult with a little wiser, I would think it would be required also. So.
Yeah, I have visions of little camp stoves kind of tucked in, sitting on top of the refrigerator that nobody knows about.
And I can tell you specifically, we did that.
Yeah. That's why I can envision it.
So you guys can't see what I'm doing here. I'm running through the filings here, and it looks like in the adoption of the 2015 code, or no, the 2012 code, I'm sorry, that this section was amended heavily. Let's see. Yeah, so they pretty much let me just double check my filing here. That is, the 2015 International Fire Code So I'll show you guys. This is what's online for the filing here for 2015 fire code. If we scroll down through here, we can see 915.1.1 is part of a lot of amendments made here. They're saying it's a new section, so all of this was done. I don't have the rationale statements more than what's in this column available right now. But if we scroll down to this section in here, we see 915 used to be alerting systems. It's now carbon monoxide detection, and they struck all that and stuck all this in here. This could have been a numbering change, and it had to change in the WAC. So without digging further, it appears to be a new requirement in 2015, and I could potentially find a proposal statement with some more detailed rationale on why these exceptions are in here the way they are. But right now I'd have to dig quite a bit farther.
Yeah, I see exception 1 there right at the top. That was when they added that exception to the college dormitory.
Yep. So I guess the answer is I don't have an answer for you on exactly why that happened at that time. Needless to say, this one needs further review. Needs to be, I guess our amendment needs to be drafted appropriately to fit into the new model code language. And then we also want to check the original adoption. This may be it here that I just showed you, but there's also the chance that it was renumbered at that time as well. And at that point, I'd have to dig further into different WAC numbers to find that. And then we also want to make sure that this is coordinated with the fire code.
I just want to be clear, our amendment is making it less restrictive. So just an FYI, you might want to just put that in the notes.
Yeah, and I think when it was added, the intent was to add R2, which I think may have been missing before. So they wanted to add everything for R2, but then they allowed an exception for the college dormitories. So, it very well may be that the model code, it doesn't, that we don't need any amendments for this.
That's exactly what I think's going on. I totally agree with you. I think after further review, it should just go back to straight model code now. The more I read this, it's just more restrictive. So, yeah.
That's what I'm thinking. But I think we need to look at it very specifically.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the one thing, if this does come up where we decide we're going to keep it, could you let me know on that? Because that's something I'd like to put a code proposal through. Because I think that exception shouldn't be there. So.
Okay. Moving to 915.2.3, I guess .2 first. We'll get into, I guess we have a change there. 915.2.1, modify the state amendment to align with updated 2024 language. Limit amendment to adding requirement for CO detection on each level of a dwelling where the CO detection is required outside of a sleeping area.
I was in the code hearings listening to this thing. You're changing 30 to 50. I'd like to get, if there's a way to find out the rationale behind that rather than staying. I can understand the other stuff that they're talking about, but that occupant load 50 or less rather than 30, that I would like to know the reason why we have modified it to have, less safe. So that's basically.
Gotcha.
I think that was for the next section, right? But I agree. I think we should reassess our state amendment.
So evaluate why state amendment is less restrictive than the model code language.
That's correct, because an occupant load of 30 or less is the exception. We've changed it to 50 or less, so that means you have a higher occupant level in a group E occupancies. And I'm wondering if this came from portables for some reason. That's my only hypothetical. But you know, I hope we go back to the 30 or less, because I was at the code hearings when a lot of people were talking about that, and I read up on it. I think 30 is the correct number.
So somebody just forward this to me. So 1927.530. They're saying this might be the legislative intent behind the carbon monoxide rules there.
Yeah, that says put them in.
Yep.
You know, that so I see what, so later on it came back. So I think they just got missed from the past. You should be putting them in the carbon monoxide, and unless I'm reading this wrong. So.
And it looks like there's maybe a proposal to exempt college dormitories in here at some point along the way.
I think it just helps us say we're more in compliance with this legislation because we are phasing in carbon monoxide detectors. So now that we're getting more and more restrictive with the model code and we're just matching it, I think we're good to go.
Yeah, that's what I think too.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna scroll back up to that one, and I'll make reference to 1927.530. Okay. Moving on down. We kind of touched on dwelling units in here. We want to modify the state amendment on this one. Do you want to talk about this one any further before we go back to the group E occupancy?
No, I think it looks great.
Okay. And with the group E occupancies, we wanted to research why the model code is more restrictive than our amendment. And am I hearing that there was a change in the model code that made it more restrictive than our current amendment, or our current amendment has always been more restrictive as far as compared to the 2021 this one?
Our current amendment is less restrictive because they said occupant load of 50. So it says 30.
That's what I meant to say.
Yeah.
Apologies.
Right. Okay. You got it. So. Yeah.
But I would say that our past amendment modified it from 30 to 52, so it definitely would take an administrative change to change. So I don't even know if we really need to research. It's just if there's intent that you think is there, Hoyt, I feel like it just should be a code change proposal.
Yeah, that's exactly the way. That's what I'm saying is if it actually was changed on purpose for XYZ reasons, I'd like to know why. But I think 30 is correct, and I would definitely put a code change proposal for that because it makes no sense to me why you wouldn't for putting in a carbon monoxide, you know, for more occupancy. It just doesn't make any sense.
Agreed.
Yeah, it looks like this is not reflected within the fire code amendments. Is that correct, Andy?
Yeah, that's true. That's a mistake. So what happens, I think it got into the building code. There's no way the fire would have approved something like this. Based on who I know in the fire people, from my experience for how long I've done that, I would be amazed if they would have approved an occupant load of 50 rather than just keep it at 30. You know, it would be interesting if you could bring it up to the fire tag too, see what they think, just to be sure I'm on the right track. and I'm not going off base somewhere. So.
Yeah, you're right. So it looks like, let's see, exception 2 was not there. Exception 1, they keep it at 30 as well. So we should probably follow. Yeah, not sure why I did not. Yeah, okay, let's.
Well, the fire code amendment has it as 50 also.
Exactly, yeah. I think, Andy, you're probably looking at model code, fire code, because the model code in both is 30, and we've modified both to 50, so
Yeah.
there's got to be a reason we did that.
Yeah, we
I
definitely
think
need
you're
to
right.
give a reason
Oh,
to
sorry,
take it.
I meant the report from the current fire tech team. They're
Oh,
keeping it as is.
oh,
Yeah,
perfect. Okay,
that was
okay.
something that I guess I missed. Yeah. Okay.
They're keeping it at 50 is what you're saying?
No, keeping it at 30, the
Oh,
model
good.
code. Keeping the model code. And then
Yes.
they don't have exception 2. So I think we, if it looks like they're sticking with the model code language, and we should probably follow the same thing.
But just out of curiosity, wouldn't they have to submit a code change proposal to do that since it was modified to 50 last year?
That's a good question.
Like they
I
can't
would
just
think.
do that in the tag, I wouldn't think. So, yeah.
Yeah, we can't. We gotta
No,
do
they
this.
wouldn't be able to make the change.
Gets back to that same thing about errors getting through. Because that would be
Oh,
a substantive change that should go through a change process.
you're right. Maybe that was the case. Let's see. Let me take a look at the spreadsheet.
Just like us, they shouldn't be eliminating amendments just because because they don't like it or disagreement. That if it's in the code, great. If it's not, then they need to review the change.
I personally think that was someone missed that a while ago. That's just my opinion.
And I only went back to the 21 Hoyt, so it could have been a case where they just, carried forward something from an older, then the code got more restrictive and they just kept carrying forward the old amendment. But without a proposal, I just don't think we can change it now because they did accept it last process.
No, I agree with you. I think we need to do a code change proposal. We got to follow the procedures correctly. We can't just do what we think because maybe there's something we don't know about that. I just find that strange that got missed.
Yeah, it was not noted one way or the other in the spreadsheet report from the fire tech team. So yeah, we should bring it up to their attention there.
Okay. Then within 915.24 adds cost. No amendments required for these sections. Same for 915.3. Nine 15.44, no cost, but no amendment needed. Same for these sections. Occupant notification brings up some cost. Duct detection, no cost. Line 17.2 is a new one, no model code change. You have a lot written down in here, Andy. You want to give us a breakdown on this?
Yeah, I believe that was more of a copy and paste from the fire tech team.
I got
just to make it consistent. Let me double check did you say 917.2? Yep.
Correct.
Yep.
Point, you got your hand up?
Yeah, sorry, I got it on mute. Yeah, that's in the model code, right? So I just want to make sure it is a cost, right? But this, I think, I was at the hearings for some of the things. I do think when the fire people were talking about this and things, I think this is a good to keep the model code, which it looks like it is, and not amend it. So these are for large occupied, 500 or more, and they have a mass notification risk analysis that has to be done. And I think we should stay with the model code.
Okay.
I agree, and that's what Andy's recommendations are here. So it sounds like he just put in the comments from the fire code tag to give justification, but I'm comfortable with it and I think we can move forward on it.
And then it looks like the last bit right here is section 918. To change emergency responder communication coverage, adds the words enhancement and enhancement system to that one with a recommendation to keep the existing amendment. Does anybody have any comments on that section or want to go back and revisit any of chapter 9?
Enhancement, emergency response communication coverage. You mean keep the word enhancement? Seems kind of an editorial thing, not a technical change. Why keep the amendment? Unless I'm reading it wrong.
I think this goes
I
back to
remember-
somebody felt strongly enough to put a code change proposal through to add enhancement and it got accepted. So
Yeah, this
I guess
one,
we'd
I
keep
remember
it.
reading this last year.
You can keep it. To me, it's editorial, but that's
Yeah.
it's not changing the code in any way at all. So
I think there's a little bit more speaking on it within the fire code sections, but not 100%. I have to check it out.
the way I would look at it when you talk to the fire code, what's the definition of enhancement system? I mean, it's not a defined term. So compared to enhancement. So if they wanted it specific, they should define what enhancement system is. So that's what I'm saying. It's not, it's editorial in my opinion.
So they actually do define that in the fire code.
They define it as enhancement system, not enhancement.
Emergency responder communications enhancement system.
Oh, that's a state amendment in the fire code. The
Yeah.
definition section.
Then you should keep it then, if it is defined. I didn't know that. So if they defined it ERCES, that should be taken to the national level and really see if we can get it in.
I think that one came right at the well, I don't know. I'm just seeing the changes in the final documents of the 2021 stuff. I'm not sure exactly what all's happening with it, or if it, maybe the proponent that brought it to us brought it to the national level. But anyway, so keep the existing amendment there.
Don't get me wrong, it's fine to keep it.
All right. Well, with a couple minutes left on our scheduled time, it looks like we're at the end of chapter 15. We'd be looking for a motion to approve this document for inclusion in our master document. The things I just want to point out before a motion was made is there's several lines in here that are marked as orange. Those just need the information inserted in here. And any of these sections that are marked orange, we had talked about not needing any amendments in there. And so these are just going to be some stuff that we're adding in after the fact. And we will also have the opportunity to review that as part of the master document before reporting this on to the committees.
Aren't they also, what about the ones, and I'm sorry, I could be wrong in this, where you're going to keep, when you're going to coordinate with the fire tag too?
We have some of those with different notes in there. But yeah, we'll bring those to the fire tag as well. So anything with yellow in this spreadsheet is mostly identified as needing some coordination with the fire tag. And then if we were going through and looking at some of these extra notes, we would see that maybe a couple other sections that aren't highlighted yellow need some coordination with the fire tag.
So I'd make a motion to approve the work that we've done, except for the items that are noted to be verified with the fire tag. I mean,
So if we want to hold off on approval of certain sections, I would maybe encourage the group to not approve this until we get the input from the fire tag.
Okay.
As a matter of keeping the chapter together as a whole and not piecemeal in sections.
then just
Yeah, let's do that.
what's it you need then, like motion to adjourn with no approval?
Well, I guess if we're not ready to approve this one, we would table the rest of the agenda for our next meeting.
Dustin, this is Roger. I mean, I think, so the section, yes, there is work that needs to be done in coordinating with the IFC tag, but just by flagging that, isn't that all we need to do in this document that says, okay, we need to coordinate this with the IFC tag?
I believe that is
my
appropriate.
question is, do we have to have resolution of it? We know that we need to coordinate with the IFC tag. Isn't that enough knowledge for us to move forward with this, with the document that you have there?
I would say yes.
So if it doesn't correlate, like I said in my motion, then you would have to bring it back. So that would be
Correct.
like yeah.
I mean, all we're doing in this document is saying we need to coordinate between IBC and IFC. We need to coordinate on this issue. You know, CO2 monitoring in the dormitories, and there will be a final recommendation to either, you know, keep the amendment, delete the amendment, or modify the amendment after we coordinate with the IFC tag.
Potentially, if we get the proposal after someone reads through this, they'll say, "Oh, I want to do this in the building code," but the building code tag identified some correlation issues within the fire code, and maybe their proposal will be drafted to bring that correlation to the forefront of the consideration of their proposal.
Yeah.
Right.
So I would like to. I can't make a motion as an alternate. But I would like to, it sounds to me like we've gone through it. We've flagged everything that we need to flag in this chapter. So, and given the fact that we only have about a week or so and we're supposed to be through everything, that I'm not sure we're going to make it. I'd like to, consider this chapter done.
Back to my motion. I make a motion to approve that we've done with the coordination with the IFC tag.
Okay.
And we need a second. Dustin, I'm kind of stepping on your toes here, but
I would say
with you back, I think that you have stolen the chair's position back from me.
Did we get a second, Paul?
yeah, I seconded.
Okay. Any more discussion?
The only discussion I would add is I think I think it was noted as chapter 15 instead of chapter 9. I know all the intent is obviously chapter 9, but the motion didn't include the chapter number. So, and so perhaps Hoyt, if you would accept that as a friendly amendment to the motion.
I made my motion to chapter 9.
Yeah,
that's what we did today. Then sorry about that. If I didn't know I had to be that specific, but yeah, chapter 9 of what we've covered today during our tag meeting to accept as modified with coordination. The fire tag.
I apologize for being picky. I think Dustin made a comment about 15, and so even though I know we meant 9, so that's all. Just keeping the record clean.
Yeah, that was a mistake of mine. If I said 15, I don't know why I said that. If I did.
All right, any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, and prior to adjournment, can we hit the schedule that we've got? So it's out on everybody's, trying to get my calendar up.
You talking
Well,
about the adoption schedule or the meeting
No, I'm
schedule?
talking about our meeting schedule. So we've got a meeting tomorrow at 1:30 as well.
Yes.
And we have a meeting next Thursday, the 13th at 2:00. And I am questioning whether we will get done through all of our chapters in 4.5 hours of meetings. And I know that there's not a whole lot of time for us to try to fit in other meetings, but I wanted to get that out there on the table. I really would like to be able to have a report done by before next Friday. And I guess we can hit that tomorrow as well. Let's see how far we are after tomorrow's meeting.
Okay.
And then consider if we need to try to find one more. If we think one more, we would be able to get done. Okay, well then I will adjourn the meeting. Thank you
Alrighty.
everybody for all of your hard work.
Thank you.
We'll chat again tomorrow.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank
Have a
you.
good evening.